This is a really cool discovery process, this whole running the YouTube channel and the interviewing people, especially people that are songwriters. Because if you didn't start as a creative for your whole life, like you probably look at other people, that's something other people do. Like I do a lot of stuff to try to start businesses and stuff, and that and I can't relate to people that do businesses because that's something someone else does.
A few people that I have taken inspiration from, one of them is Post Malone. And Post Malone, something that Post Malone does, because this guy was analyzing him online and going, how does he make so many hits? And so he kind of broke down his songwriting process. And he usually starts with the chorus right away. I don't know if you noticed that in the music video I just posted today for Dandelions, it starts with the chorus. And there's a saying that's just don't bore us, get to the chorus.
Some of these movies that you've done with people that have been known, name a couple of people
Right, yeah, I worked with Bruce Willis and Hilary Duff, Val Kilmer. Well, I did this one movie with Chris Christopherson was there, who's a legendary songwriter, and then Dwight Yoakam was also in that movie as well, and he was another musician. Dwight Yoakam is one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life, by the way. And who else? Emma Watson, Logan Lerman, and Ezra Miller from Perks Being Wallflower, and
Hey everybody, it's me, Matt, AiDIY, the AI music guy. I am introducing Reece Thompson. Very interesting person, good backstory, has a very interesting career. He's Canadian, and don't be afraid if you're not Canadian, I will still possibly interviewing you. I just seem to be getting really lucky with the Canadians. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the podcast, and I'm actually really looking forward to this conversation. So, yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, what's your backstory? What have you done as a career up until this point?
Well, it's a long story. So I started in acting when I was 10, and my parents are both teachers. So when they had their summers off, they would do background work or extra work in film and TV stuff. And so they just thought it would be a good idea to get me and my brother and sister involved with it to see, so we could save up for university or whatever, just have our own income. And then I wasn't bad in school, but I didn't like school. I didn't like the structure of it. And so when I got to set, I was like, oh, they don't teach you that you can play for a living instead of working for a living. Because my favorite thing to do at school was recess, and it would always be we'd be playing Power Rangers or X-Men or whatever, It'd be like, you be this guy, you be that guy, and we would take on different roles and play them out. So when I found out you could do that for a living, I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. So
yeah, I think a lot of us, I think it's fortunate that I've sort of looked at your career, and you're lucky you sort of discovered that sort of younger, right? I'm older now. I'll say older. I won't say my age, but I'm 50. But it's only been the last few years that you realize that if you weren't enjoying school and you were enjoying other things, you just weren't getting it, there's nothing wrong with you. I always thought when I was younger, there's something wrong with you, and you're sort of, and that's one thing. It'd be good, someone hopefully maybe have an aha moment, you can do something for a career that's not going to college and doing math, depending where you come from. Mm-hmm. So I just thought that was an interesting thing. You said that, you discovered that maybe you can play Power Rangers and do that as a career.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I started doing that, and then, no, I didn't start right away. I was still doing background, but I kept getting upgraded all the time. And then I started doing it because I was really passionate about it. It started to bleed over into my school time. And so my teachers at school weren't happy about that. So after the 6th grade, I told my parents I wanted to drop out. And they were like, okay, well, now's the time to do acting if you want to do it. So I went to an acting school. I did a week intensive, and then they signed me to they introduced me to an agent who signed me. And then by the time I was 16, I booked my first lead of a feature film shot in Baltimore, Maryland. And the movie was called Rocket Science. Went there, did that. That went to Sundance, and the director won Best New Director. And then I got my first agent in the States. And then that was when, after I did that movie, I was like, I don't want to do TV anymore. I just want to do films. And I just wanted to do movies. And I just wanted to do independent features. And that's what I did for quite a while. And then I was living in LA. I was like 23, 24, I think. And then I decided to move back to Vancouver. And then I came back and work just started slowing down. And then I just really started focusing on writing because I didn't have, I had a
Yeah.
lot of downtime. So, yeah.
Well, we'll get back to the writing bit, but I just want to establish that like there's a big scope of people that do the AI music, right? Because this is, I guess, what this podcast is about is AI music, and there's some people that have, never done anything, and there's some that have. So some of these movies that you've done, they're somewhat big films. You've been in movies with people that have been known, right? Like what some
Yeah.
of the people, like name a couple of people, like just to name, just give people an idea that like you've done some major works.
Right. Yeah. I worked with Bruce Willis and Hilary Duff, Val Kilmer, Well, I did this one movie with Chris Christopherson was there, who's a legendary songwriter, and then Dwight Yoakam was also in that movie as well, and who's another musician. And Dwight Yoakam is one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life, by the way. And who else? Emma Watson, Logan Lerman, and Ezra Miller from Perks being Wallflower, and Uma Thurman. Yeah, lots of people.
So you've done lots of stuff. So
Yeah.
the point I'm sort of making is like, I guess you get a lot of haters that say like you're not a real artist, you're not a real creative and
Right.
stuff. You are. Like you were picked up as a young dude, you're still doing it now
Yeah.
in the different art stuff. I see you've got a trumpet in the back. I
Oh,
admire the honoring of the trumpet.
I'm at my I'm at my buddy's place. That's not mine.
Oh,
But
you
actually,
did tell me that. Yeah, sorry
I
about that.
did give him a ukulele, but that's not the one. I gave him a ukulele, and he's got it in storage.
Yeah.
Bastard.
Well, in one way or another, you're honoring the trumpet, either
Right.
intentionally or unintentionally. The trumpet's getting honored,
Yeah.
so I appreciate that. That go back to my roots, but
I
yeah.
used
So
to play
I just want to
clarinet.
establish that. So,
I
there you
played
go. Like,
clarinet.
and I
Yeah.
knew, dude, Reece, I knew people who played clarinet. So, we'll in the band. So yeah. So you're established. So you like that's really good to basically put as a foundation that you are a creative. You've done that before, and you've gone through that whole thing. You're still sort of involved in the production of movies and all that now. So you're creative. You're an artist and all that. And you sort of discovered, how did you sort of? Sorry, let me bring it back. You've mentioned to me that you've done writing at the same time. You've written
Right.
poems and songs and all that while you're going through all that. Tell me a bit about that. Like, what did that do for you? Why did you do that? And what is your process? Any of that stuff?
Well, okay, so I wrote my first pilot when I was like 15 because I had a sketch group, like a YouTube sketch group with some friends. And that actually ended up getting me roles. Like I had a director tell me one time, I hired you. I wasn't sure about you. And then I Googled you and I found your YouTube sketches. And then I was like, okay, this guy gets it. But going way back, I actually realized before I knew that acting was a thing, I wanted to be a songwriter. Like I remember, I have a very vivid memory of being young, like very young, like 6 or something. And we were on a road, my family and I were on a road trip. And I said that I wanted to write music or something. And my brother was like, you can't write music. And then I was like, I'll do it right now. And I sang some terrible song. And he was like, that's terrible. But I just remember I always had this thing.
Subjective.
Yeah. Well, he's my older brother, so yeah. But I always had this thing where he's cool now, where I would hear a song and I would always be like, I would always think that the lyrics were different, and then I would want to change them. And I'd be like, oh, I wish the lyrics were this. And that still happens to me. Now it's starting to happen to me more with like composition and stuff like that as well. But I realized through this process, I'm like, oh, that was actually what I wanted to do originally. And then I discovered acting. But when I was 19, it was my first time like going down to LA on my own. And I was with a buddy of mine who played guitar and sang and stuff. And I our friend actually got food poisoning, and we were supposed to go out that night, and he got food poisoning, so he was throwing up in the bathroom. And so my friend started just strumming on the guitar. He's like, "It's Friday night and our friend isn't feeling good." And I just went, "Man, oh man, welcome to Hollywood." And then we were like, "Oh," and then we wrote a song. And so then him and I wrote songs together for many years after that. And oh, there's 3 songs on my first album that he co-wrote with me, and so he had some of the royalties on those. And then I think there's like one on the other one. There was a couple that I was pretty sure that he had collaborated with me on, and he was like, "No, that was all you." I'm like, "Okay, all right, sure."
Take it.
But
Take
then,
it.
one of them was one that it's called "She Is Green," and it was one of the songs that he wrote most of. Like I had written the chorus, but he wrote all the other lyrics. Um, so he owns most of the rights to that song on
Yeah.
Synesthesia. Yeah.
Yeah, synesthesia. That and you know, prior to this, I saw that, and I had ChatGPT help me pronounce it in case you didn't pronounce it first.
Right.
Um, so I didn't want to mess that up. But one thing I like that you're saying that highlights to me is I think it's cool, and for me, this is a really cool discovery process. This whole running the YouTube channel and the interviewing people, especially people that are songwriters, because I guess if you didn't start as a creative for your whole life, like you probably look at other people, that's something other people do. Like I do a lot of stuff to try
Right.
to start businesses and stuff, and that like I couldn't relate to it. I've worked for people, I didn't, and I can't relate to people that do businesses because that's something someone else does. And you mentioned like your process and the way you think of a song. It was interesting. I liked when you said that there that you hear another song and you go and you think like those lyrics should be different, and
Yeah.
that was a really cool song. I haven't heard anybody say that before. It's such a cool thing because I've heard other people say like they walk along and like some song just goes in their head, and I
Yeah.
heard like Paul
I have
Simon
that
says like
too.
he do you that's right, but it's a cool thing like you like if you're doing this as a start, like
Yeah.
you don't have to mimic someone else's thing. Like for me, for my process is I get hit really strong about a concept. Like I really think that this
Yes.
concept is funny. I don't. The
Yeah.
words don't come to me necessarily. That sometimes like a chorus will
Hmm.
come to me, but
Hmm.
that's my process. And you've got yours, and Paul Simon has his, and you know people have theirs, and like you're not wrong or you're not
And
because yours
in
doesn't follow
fact,
it.
in
Your thing
fact,
could be
what I would say to that, and this is the advice I always give to people who like, because people ask me sometimes about writing advice for like screenwriting and stuff. And my advice is always try everything. Like I've
mm,
tried every single type of story structure available. And then I found the Dan Harmon story circle for screenwriting. And
Dan
that, or
Harmon.
just for, yeah, the Dan Harmon story circle. And it's just like, essentially, it's a more simplified version of the hero's journey. And that that's the one that works for me. May not necessarily work for everybody else, but I'm like, try everything. So it's like, you
Mm,
named all these other creative processes that people have. I have all those too. Like I do it all. So like Firewood in the Rain, which is on my album that's coming out on June 16th, Scorvatarius. Um, I was chopping firewood in the rain, and I was like, oh,
mm.
what a great metaphor. And then I was loading the wood into a wheelbarrow and taking it over to the wood pile. And I was like, I could fill a wheelbarrow with this pain. And then, and then I was just like, okay, that's it. And then I went in, and that was actually the genesis of this whole new album because I I done the other one, and I just was working on other things. And then when I came inside to sit down, 4.5 had come out, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
Mm, mm.
And
Yeah, yeah.
I had already known that I was gonna call the album Scorvatarius, I just, for some reason, I was on the phone with my friend. I was like, I think I know what my next album's gonna be called. He's like, what? I'm like, Scorpitarius, because like I'm on the cusp. I'm a Sagittarius Scorpio, right? Um,
Yeah.
so I just say that as like a funny thing when girls ask me what my sign is, because it's a sign they've never heard of, right?
Scorpitarians, right?
Yeah,
That's like an
yeah,
individual.
yeah, exactly. And then I decided to make. I was like, oh, what if I make my own like character for the album cover? And I was like, I want it to look like a Pokemon. It would be like a centaur with like, pinchers, but like more animal like than like a centaur, with a scorpion tail. And then I tried to make the it look like a crossbow on the end of this, like as a stinger. And I wanted like the stars in the background and the clouds coming around it and everything. And that was actually the most difficult thing to do, was to create that image. It took a while because I was using free
Yeah.
ChatGPT to do it, and
Yeah.
it took a long time. But I'm really happy
ChatGPT
with how
right
it
now
turned
has
out.
awesome image creation put into it.
Mhm.
If anybody out there that's sort of watching this that has gone like ChatGPT shit because of Dolly, in the last month or so, man, you could pretty much invent anything. I don't know if you can invent something that doesn't exist like that, but
The only thing, actually, you
image.
know what? The only thing that's tough is like I have like an idea for like this Spider-Man, like this version of Spider-Man I want to do, and so I was trying to get it to make it in there, and it did like a pretty good job, but it's like it won't. Like I had ChatGPT actually helped me like work around like copyright, because it'd be like, oh, this
Yeah.
goes against our, and I'm like, oh,
Mm.
come on. I'm like,
It
anyone
has
can
a lot
pick,
of guardrails.
but it's
Yeah.
like anyone can pick up a pencil and draw a spider. I mean, people sell drawings of Spider-Man and they have no affiliation with Marvel. So like
Yeah.
that's the part of it that I'm like, okay, what are you talking about? Like people have been stealing art forever,
Yeah.
I don't.
This feels like a really good segue actually
Yeah, yeah.
into stealing art, whether like you obviously know a lot of people in the industry, in different industries and creative industries, right?
Yeah.
So what are your feelings on and what are other people's, like you've had conversations with people, whether it's theft or whether
Oh
it's
yeah.
stealing. There's
Well,
and obviously you don't share that opinion because you're involved in it in a lot of different ways, so
okay. So here's the way I see it, because it's actually good. That was a good segue, but it's also a good something I wanted to say earlier was
to
that
backtrack, go for it.
yeah, to go back, was that I've witnessed a lot of changes in the industry. I in the film industry, I was there when we switched to digital cameras. Everybody hated digital cameras. They were like, this is going to ruin film, blah, 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 blah. It's going to replace film. Like, film is so much better, and blah, blah, blah. People still shoot on film. If you have the money and you
Mm-hmm.
have the capabilities of doing it, people still do it. Actually, I have friends who just made a movie. A director I worked with, Tyler Shields, he just did a new movie. The name is escaping me right now, but they shot it on every form of camera that's ever been, I believe. So they shot it on everything from an iPhone to like a Super 8, like every type of camera. There's like a shot in there done that way.
Yeah.
That's probably because he comes from like a photography background. But yeah, it doesn't replace things.
And a lot of things now with the
So I
digital
saw the
cameras.
emergence of
Sorry,
digital.
go.
Then
Yeah.
CGI. People hated CGI. They thought it was going to replace animation, and then streaming. They all disrupted the
Yeah.
industry in their own way. But I also know that when these waves would come, if people didn't get on board with them, they were left behind.
Let me. I'll try to break that down a little bit before we actually move on to that because it's cool that you brought that up. So the argument could be, and I'm not necessarily completely against this argument either, that like digital comes along and it can sort of mimic stuff, but does it take away a little bit as well? Like if you're like a little bit of the rawness, a little bit of the analog, and I know digital in a lot of ways can sort of mimic that stuff, but does it remove some of the art? Ooh, your camera looks really good now.
Oh,
Does it remove some of the I don't know, some of the analog, some of the rawness of the creative part of it? Is that a
with
legitimate takeaway from it? Like you can do it,
with
like
digital cameras.
CGI and all that stuff. Yeah, digital cameras and the CGI. Does that take away at all? Hey, look, sorry, we had a few technical issues. I've always understood that podcasting remotely, not in a studio, is going to have issues. So I hope you bear with me. I'm fine with it. I think Reece is okay with it as well. We'll just hopefully, is it all good?
Yeah.
We're
Oh, of
good. Yeah, we
course.
can hear you. Yeah,
I mean,
cool,
it's
cool.
it's because I'm traveling, so
Yeah,
I'll
that's
have
all right.
the perfect setup at the moment.
You know what? Like I said, I got into this going, things are not going to work all the time. I do another
Right.
gig when I move up north that the entire podcast is done in a studio,
Yeah.
and there's still problems. So
Yeah.
this is going to happen. But
For
let's
sure.
pick up where we left off. You were
Yeah. Of
talking
course.
about. I'll just try to roll back a little bit so we can get it going again. So we were talking about how I asked a question about how AI is being perceived in the industry because you're around a lot of people. Obviously, you have connections in the industry, and there's some people that
Hmm.
weren't happy about it necessarily. But you were bringing back to the point that you were there when analog video got changed to digital, and we all know these examples exist, like when cars first came into place,
Right.
and people that own horses are like, "What the frick are you talking about? Horses are so much faster," and
Yeah.
at the time they were right. So
Right. Yeah.
it's more dependable, and the stables and the infrastructure was set up for horses. But
Yeah. Yeah. But that's just the way things go. And the thing is that like it's funny because people, even the people that I know, they assume that I am friends with all these people, and I really have three friends, and like I
we'll
just
say
kind
four
of
now. Hey, Reece, we'll say four now.
yeah, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
and you got your computer
Um,
guy.
but like you know what I mean? Like I mean like there's three guys in my life that like actually call me to see how I'm doing. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
know lots of people, but like the three people that are close to me that I actually consider friends. I used to throw the friend word around a lot more, and then I just realized, like for example, I had a friend that when I first started doing the AI music, I played it for him, and a lot of the songs that I made, I could play on guitar, right? So I played them for him. He's like, I kind of liked it better when you were just like playing it here on guitar. And I was like, you mean for only you? And it's just sort of like sometimes people like they want to hold you back, and not necessarily like intentionally,
Yeah,
but sometimes people they just do that, or sometimes it is intentional. Sometimes
yeah,
people want to put
yeah,
you
yeah.
down to build themselves up, and so yeah, I mean, like I ran into
I
a
think a lot of
situation.
conversations don't require a lot of deep thought either. Like
Mhm.
if someone's throwing a question at me and I don't think of the wider implications of what they're actually asking, I might just throw out an answer, right? That too.
Yeah, exactly. And also it's like maybe I would do the same thing to the wrong person. But I would say
Yeah.
that like my three friends, who are all successful too, and that's like not why I'm friends with them. One of my best friends from childhood, he's actually launching the first ever AI avatar social media app, and so like I'm gonna be getting on that and use that as a platform to for my music as well. So but that's just a coincidence. That's
Yeah.
the funny thing.
Yeah.
um and then but yeah, they're all successful in their own right, and that's not why they're successful. I think the reason they're successful is that all three of them are very positive, not only about themselves, but we're positive about each other. And I think that like that's like what you need in order to
That's
succeed.
what
I
friends are, totally. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I
And most
don't
people
care
don't
about
have a lot
anybody
of
else's.
those.
Yeah, and I don't care about anybody else's opinion. And like okay, for example, I'm not like 100% like I don't want to read a comic that's made with AI art. I don't.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that other people don't. You know what I mean? If I knew that a comic was made with AI art, I don't know if I would read it. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I'd flip through it just to see,
But that doesn't mean
but
that it's
like
shit. It just or maybe
maybe
it's
it's just not for me.
yeah,
But
yeah.
maybe other people enjoy it. It doesn't necessarily mean I don't know if I would make one. The thing that's interesting about that is that I was supposed to do a comic book with this comic artist. I met him at a comic convention, because I have this big idea that I built out since I was like 15, and I was like, hey, I was like, I got in touch with him. We had a meeting, and he wanted to collaborate with me. And then I had mentioned that I was like, yeah, and I'd made a lot of the characters in AI. And he's like, well, I wouldn't show those to an artist because one of the best things about working with an artist is like you tell them what you want, and then they give you something, and maybe they'll give you something that you don't expect. And so I
Yeah.
was like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Also the AI art platforms like Leonardo and ChatGPT do the exact same thing, right? But with a quicker turnaround.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess I try and make like if I'm making images, I try usually aside from my like my album cover art is do photorealistic images because
Yeah.
I'm like that's not really it's like photos from everywhere. I don't
Yeah.
really for me personally my morals I don't like actively go like, oh, make me. You saw my desktop background. It's a Jay Lee art.
Yeah. I saw.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't. He's my favorite comic book artist. I wouldn't want to take art from him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Even though I
Yeah.
can, unless it's for my personal, consumption. I've done it, but then that was before I discovered that I could make things photorealistic. Because my goal was always to work with artists. So I was like, well, maybe if I make the movie looking version of it, and then we can reverse that to a
Yeah.
comic book format. But anyway, ironically, I sent him another thing that I had done in AI. I'm like, I know you don't really like AI, but I just wanted to show you what I was working on. And then he didn't want to work with me anymore. And ironically, took a job away from himself, and then kind of pushed me more in a direction of working with AI. So it's like I think that people just need to embrace it. I think like to me, the idea of combining traditional art and AI is where the magic will happen,
Yeah.
you know?
I think, see, and I sort of wrote a song about this, the hypocrisy of it though, too, because,
Mm-hmm.
like you might get like this comic book guy, right? That does
Mm-hmm.
writes the comics, and he's going to be dead set against using AI to create artificial images, not blah blah. And like that's ridiculous. You can't do that. That's terrible. But that same comic book guy, this is a hypothetical one. Not anybody knows. I'm just inventing this guy at the top of my head, but
Mm-hmm.
he's probably a lot of people. That same exact guy will use ChatGPT to wrote
Right.
to help with a blog article, and ChatGPT has borrowed from 800 newspaper or 8 billion newspaper articles and
Yeah.
magazines and everything else. So that guy, he's like, this is wrong taking from artists, but it's okay to take from writers. Like, you
Yeah,
know
which
what I
I
mean?
am. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
primarily a writer. That's actually a really good point, and I should maybe use that in the future because I am primarily a writer. So I could say, well, it's okay for you to steal from writers, but it's not okay for because as if my writing becomes more prominent, then it will be easier to make something like what
yeah.
I could create, right, with AI.
I think the
So,
idea
but
is that it's not going away. So,
mhm.
like,
I think it's a trend. I do think it's a trend. I think everything is a trend. I think
yeah,
social media is a trend, and honestly, I think AI is probably gonna
I wish it was.
destroy social media. No, it is a
Yeah.
trend. I think AI is going to destroy it because when you're looking at stuff and you can't tell if it's real,
Yeah.
people are going
Yeah.
to start losing. People are already over it. It's like
Mm.
an addiction, and people are at that
Yeah.
stage of time where we're sick of it. We loved it at one point, but now it's like I'm addicted to this thing and I don't like it anymore. I want to quit. And I
Yeah.
think that like the only thing
It's
that
true.
can stop
Yeah.
that is the new thing, and I think the new thing is AI, and I think social media will die out because of that.
Yeah.
And then AI will be a trend for a while. The thing that's interesting about now is that people's attention spans are shorter. Technology is moving faster, but trends seem to last longer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny about the attention span thing too, because like when I started YouTube, they said do a 30-second intro and and then it's down to 6. And now I think it's less than 6. If my storytelling part of what the video is going to be about is more than 6 seconds, it drops off. People won't be interested.
Right.
That
Yeah.
that's and that's why you might be right. Social media could social
Yeah.
media could just completely drop off.
That's a good segue into songwriting actually, because so there's a few people that I have taken inspiration from. One of them is Post Malone. And Post Malone, something that Post Malone does, because this guy was analyzing him online and going, how does he make so many hits, right? And so he kind of broke down his like songwriting process. And he usually starts with the chorus right away.
Mm,
I don't know if you noticed that in the music video I just posted today for Dandelions, it starts with the chorus
okay.
because it kicks in right away. Um, and
I
then
hadn't noticed
the
that,
other,
but yeah.
yeah, that's the thing. You don't, but it grabs you right away because it's there, like immediately. And there's a saying that's just like, "Don't bore us, get to the chorus." And Sia is
D-
another person. So because Sia, I watched an interview with her where she was talking about where she was talking about chandelier, and she was saying how, yeah, I just like I like the word chandelier. I had this chandelier in my place, and I was like, that's such a beautiful word. And then she's like, I want to write a song about that. So she was like conceptualizing, but she would say she's like, I just take like objects, everyday objects that I find beautiful, and then I'll like turn that into a song, right?
mm.
So
I don't want to make this political, but I just made a thought. It's like, so Trump maybe should get into AI music because he likes the word groceries. Maybe he should write a song about groceries. There's like about 10 videos of him saying how
sure,
much I
yeah.
like the word
Uh,
groceries.
maybe you should do that. That sounds
Maybe
like
I
a
should.
good
I'm trying
satire.
to
Yeah,
stay away from that stuff. I don't want to
right.
lose people, but my anything that has to do with politics when I'm right is tries to be vague. You know.
Right. I like the thing is like I'm in the middle. So it's like I for me it's like uh I look at the candidate and and it depends on the year too. It depends on like a lot of different things. So that I try and express that in my music because I don't think there's not a lot of representation for people in the middle right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because people want to shove people to different sides.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm trying to like, I think that like, I'm trying to bring people together as much as I can.
Yeah.
Cause
Same
a
here.
debate
Yeah.
that's like, you know, kind of confusing to people. You know what I mean? Kind of makes you think and go like, what does he say? Oh, okay. If
You
I
know what?
can.
I'm finding, and I'm in the middle too, man. I'm finding that in the mainstream, people are staying away from politics altogether because it hurts their bottom line, and you can lose it. Like the Dixie Chicks is an old example that everybody likes to use. Like
They're
they,
not even the
she
Dixie
said
Chicks anymore. They're the Chicks.
the chicks. So, but
Yeah.
they made one political statement on a stage, and then they got death threats, and no one they're boycotting their music. Usually, boycotts of that sort has an opposite effect. Like the other side buys more of it, but I think in
I
the
think the
middle,
problem is that they caved though. They should have been like,
yeah,
fuck off. And then
yeah,
people
yeah,
would have been like, okay, that was punk rock. Because that's the thing.
yeah,
If you're a punk and you say some shit and people get upset about it, you'd be like, yeah, go fuck yourself. And then,
yeah.
sorry, I don't know if you can swear on here,
I think you
but
can't
yeah, and
swear in the
then,
first 2 minutes. Should be good. I
okay.
think that's the rule that I read somewhere
Well, you can
vague.
bleep it out later if you
But
want.
you
But
think of
anyway,
like the centric
yeah.
people that we're talking about. Like
Mm,
I was thinking, and I was going to do a segment on this that there's a little bit of a political movement in the AI music because like AI people don't have anything to lose, and
mm.
there are people that write AI political songs. I've had a few come across my desk, but not enough to call it a movement. I had someone suggest that I should do that and do a segment on their political movement, but there's not that much, and I think a lot of it has to do with in eccentric people see like the polarity of everything that everybody's so pissed off about everything and centric people don't want to piss people off. You want to get people to come on side. So if you write and right now if you write anything that has one word that sounds like it might be against somebody else, you're that bad guy on that side. And if you say
Yeah.
if you talk about climate change, if you say like, oh, there might be a little political warming global warming going on this
Yeah.
planet, you're dead, man. Like, but I just said that one thing. No, you're a lefty jerk face.
Right, right,
Like
right.
so. So there's no motivation. There can't be political movement like in the '60s and '70s in music, because the centrists like they have their opinions and you want to be lovey and cuddly, and the right and the
Right.
left they just I don't know, man. It's an ugly thing.
Well, so for an example of how I am kind of in the middle, like dandelions is a, speaking of global warming, is about the bees. And well, growing up, there was all these commercials on TV about killing the dandelions in your yard, right?
Hmm.
Dandelions are food. Like you can take the leaves and you can put them in your, you can make a salad out of them. You can take the roots and make tea out of it and stuff. And it's cancer fighting and stuff. And then they're telling us to pour poison on them. And then they're going, the bees are dying. And if the bees die, we're all going to die. Well, the bees use the dandelions. So that's what that song's about, right? And how we're all kind of like buzzing around in our own hives, being controlled by some queen bee somewhere that like a lot of us don't even know who it is.
Yeah.
And so that's
Yeah.
behind that. But then on the other side of it, in Canada, they're talking about building machines to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere, and we have so many trees here. Like I don't really think that's an issue. I don't think that's the issue that we should be focused on. I'm more concerned about plastic.
Yeah.
That's more important to me.
Yeah.
And so
But
you
let's
know,
just talk about bringing this
yeah, sure.
to, well, no, I love talking about that stuff. And the thing is talking about, I mean, it just goes to show that talking about AI has implications, right? And it does lead to other topics, and it does lead to political stuff. And like I was talking to, I did a video last night about the VO3, the thing that Google's come out where they make
Oh yeah,
realistic videos, right? Like up until now, it was, I guess, a little bit of a challenge for these like deep fakes. Like you don't just like, oh, I'm gonna go to Google, find one, blah blah blah. Like there's a little bit of effort into it. But
mm,
but now, like I did a song, I just wanted to test it, right? I didn't get the ultimate version. I got the pro version, and I
mm-hmm.
literally just said, make me a guy, a real estate agent standing on a platform, auctioning off a house, whole bunch of people around him, a song about ice cream, and everybody's tapping and clapping, and it did it perfectly, right? It looks like a dude with a very simple prompt and a whole bunch of people, oh my god, this guy's singing about ice cream. And you think about
Yeah,
political stuff, like you can now have somebody, a lot of what you do when you give people a bit of credibility, like if you want someone to talk about a subject, you have them, have a beard and some smart books behind him, like he's from a university, and then he can
you
talk.
mean like
He has
this?
in, like anything, but he has instant credibility. Like I remember watching the news, right, and I was like, this guy's smart, and I thought, why is he smart? Because he's got a freaking beard and he's got books behind him. I don't know who he is, right?
Right.
But now you can manufacture that credibility just with AI. You
Yeah.
can just Google what's the most, if I want to establish credibility about this bullshit that I'm talking about that is absolutely not true, I can go to ChatGPT and say, what should this person look like? What words should he use? How
Yeah.
should he frame it? I could take those exact words and a prompt, dump it into Google VO3, and all of a sudden I can tell you that there's aliens landing right now, and you'll be
Well,
like, oh my God.
all intelligence is artificial,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
Everything that we know, we, other than wisdom, that's the difference between intelligence and wisdom, right?
Mm, mm,
All intelligence is artificial. You can
yeah.
read a ton of books, but it's not like you didn't come up with that,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? But if
Well,
you're like tapped
was it
into
someone
something
says
else,
intelligence is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Sorry.
mm,
What was it? Wisdom is knowing that you don't put it in a fruit salad or something like that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, right. Or not giving a shit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
I'd say even more.
Yeah,
Like, who
that's true.
cares? Like, what are you
That
trying
takes a
to
while.
prove? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
Um, mhm.
Cool. So one of the reasons I wanted to get you on initially, besides like you're an artist and all that stuff, is some of the projects you have going on. And I had all the notes, but so much IT stuff's happened between the
Yeah.
notes and now. That you was it? I want to see if the powder something. I think you had
Oh,
that's
baby powder. Yeah,
baby powder. Yeah, the baby powder when you got
yeah.
through. Like I was. This is one thing that I like about the way some people that are sort of mature in the way that they create art I have a lot of people that are starting out. There's nothing wrong with starting out and having things be basic and then sort of building on top of that. So I'm not taking a shot whatsoever that people that do things in a simple way. But like the difference between like someone that basically wants to talk about their trauma that they've had in their life, and it's beautiful. Like if you want to just have these songs and create them and have them for yourself or put them out there, however you want to use that music, that's another reason AI music is really good. Is you don't have to have it as a commercial thing. You can do it in your own time. But
Mhm.
your lyrics and all the stuff that I've heard, there's a lot of metaphorical stuff. Like I initially had this song, Next Level, for example,
Oh
that
yeah.
I'm like, oh, he knows a lot about video games. This is all about his love of video games. But in the back of my mind, I thought, I bet it's metaphorical, right? So
Yeah.
tell me about you. Tell me about how you do that. I would love for you to break it down if you can in a simple way, where you're talking
Right.
about where you help some people that are maybe on the cusp. Like I've written about this stuff in a really direct way that has no, you know, that's
Yeah.
not overly creative, and I want to take a
Right.
next step and think about that,
Yeah.
about doing it in a way
So
that's not so direct.
for next level, I wanted to make a diss track for, and my friend was saying, he's like, I really want you to make a diss track.
Mm.
By the way, the reason why, so he's the guy who introduced me to Suno, and he's a millionaire. And I was talking one day, I was like, I need to figure out how to make money. And he said to me, maybe you should get into music. I was like, what? And he's like, you're pretty good at it. I'm like, that is not the advice that I would expect from a successful businessman. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're pretty good at it though. And so then he's very up on technology and stuff. And so he sent me the Suno app, and then he introduced me to it. So I have him to thank for all that. Um, but anyway, he kept saying he wanted me to make like a diss track, uh, and but I'm not gonna do anything that's dishonest. Like,
Mm.
in fact, I sent next level to him. He goes, "No, I wanted to hear you talk about like killing people and stuff." I'm like, "But I wouldn't do that." So
Mm.
I wanted to
So he's
do.
saying it's more commercial. Is that what he's saying?
I don't know. He just wanted to hear what he wanted to hear from me.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I
Fair
mean?
enough.
Like he just wanted
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
see what I would do with something like that. But anyway, so I wanted to make a diss track for people that were against AI music, and so the whole purpose of Next Level is that like it doesn't matter what like level, like what game we're in. It doesn't matter what we're competing on. Like I'm up here.
Mm.
It doesn't matter if I'm strumming on guitar and you're strumming on guitar. Like I so I've gotten into it with some musicians locally. I said, I'm like, you know what? I give you a year and you can use any tool that you want to make a song better than that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Use
Yeah.
whatever you want. You can use
Yeah.
AI if you want. You
And
can do it your
do it
way.
for the
I
ten
don't
dollars a
care.
month that I did it for.
No, I mean, okay, so if you, the one thing that I think that I've noticed since I joined the Reddit community is how many drafts I make. So
Mm.
I actually asked ChatGPT to do the math for me, and I make on average 153 drafts before I publish a song.
Mm.
So I've made 6,607 drafts, and I've published 43 songs. Um, and on average, a song takes me like 12 hours. Sometimes it takes me 48. Sometimes it takes me 4. And this is my full time job right now. So when I say like 48 hours, I mean 48 hours. Like I wake up and then that's what I'm doing the whole day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll get like, usually the way it works is like I'll wake up and I'll finish a song from the day before and then I'll start a new one and then I'll finish that one the next day,
Mm.
essentially. But yeah, I think the best way to tackle a song is conceptualize first, think of the chorus, think of a line that's like catchy and that like means something to you. I've abandoned songs that I wasn't connected to. I tried
Yeah.
writing
Yeah.
something and I was just
Mm.
like, I'm not feeling this. And I just
Yeah.
moved on. And then eventually I was working on something else. And I was like, you know what? I like that lyric from that draft that I just like that I abandoned. And so I'll go back there and I'll take those
Yeah.
lyrics and put them in
I
there.
think there's something about that, even the stuff that ends up not being like you mentioned Sia before. And I
Yeah.
may have mentioned this before too. Like she'll write stuff just to write stuff that's not her commercial stuff because she wants to get it on paper. And I found like this is stuff I didn't know because I wasn't an overly creative. Well, I mean, I was creative in different ways, but when
Yeah.
I really started digging into this stuff, I noticed that the more time you spend with a song, like the more personal it gets, the more whatever you're trying to get out is getting out. Even if you don't eventually release that as like a single or something like that, at least you had that
Mhm.
time saying what you needed to say onto the paper and getting it out of you. And it was still probably going to be a good experience for
Yeah.
you.
Also, sometimes I go way past the one that ends up being the one.
Mm,
Usually, I don't go super far past. Like, I'll hear it and I'll be like, "That's the one," or I'm like, "Oh, that one's pretty good," and then I'll keep going. I'll keep generating and adjusting, and then I'll be like, "That one's stuck in my head,"
yeah.
and then I'll go back to that one, and
Yeah.
I'll choose that one. Trusting your ear, I think, is really important. If you're somebody who likes music, like I remember I had friends who were in a band when I was young, and I remember I was watching an interview with them, and the guitarist was saying the band's called Melee, by the way. They were pretty like big in Asia and Europe back in the day. Um, and the guitarist was saying, they're like, "What's a question that you get asked all the time that you're just sick of hearing?" He goes, "The dumbest question we get asked is, do we listen to our own music?" I'm like, "Do you?" He's like, "Of course we do. We're making music that we want to hear,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?" So, and it's kind of like goes back to that thing we were talking about before about hearing a song and going like that. I want it different. I want to change it. You know,
Mm.
it's like,
That's what you were saying with your lyrics. Like you hear other songs and you're like, I want to
yeah.
change the lyrics to that song. Yeah. That's an
Or
interesting
it's
thing
not
too.
not
Cause
always the lyrics. Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't like the bridge. I wish they went softer, or
yeah.
if they just went a different direction with it. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's a couple different things you think of, right? Like, so even as humans without AI, we're learning from other songs and sort of modifying. So the
Mm.
whole thing about it borrows from somebody else, like you're saying, like you've been writing songs, you said for 15 years or since you were 15,
Well, since I was
since
19
you were 19.
was when I started writing with Landon, my old partner, and yeah. So since then,
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean,
yeah.
that's just
And
an
then I
interesting
started
thing.
writing on
So,
my own. I started to learn guitar and instruments and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
but I was just never really like, I was just, that wasn't my thing. Like I played clarinet and I didn't like it. You know,
Yeah.
I was actually quite good at clarinet and was offered like private lessons, and I was like, I don't want to. I
Yeah.
wanted to learn saxophone, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I took guitar lessons, and what was interesting about that time actually was when I took guitar lessons, I didn't like the music that I listened to.
Mm.
That's why, because like I went to class, like, well, what do you listen to? And I'm like, I don't even want to like tell you,
Yeah.
because it was
Was
like
it
I
was like
wasn't.
classical stuff or was it?
No, that was like when the pop punk era was going on, like
Yeah.
Blink 182 and shit like that, and like I wasn't that into it. Like
Yeah.
I grew up
You
listening
can
to
learn from it though.
Elvis and
Like I played
Bobby
trumpet and
Darin and
all
stuff.
that. I played trumpet in
I
high school. I
appreciate
was
it
in the
now.
chorus and all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. I sort of grew
Yeah,
into it. I remember like going, oh, this is just some stuff I have to play because I'm in the band. They make us play it. But over
yeah,
time, it really made me appreciate, like in a deeper level, just the music. Like I didn't know who Andrew Lloyd Webber was when I was in high school until I started playing
yeah,
some Andrew Lloyd Webber music. And then you get interested in it. You get and you start taking
yeah.
in the music and you appreciate the music at the deeper level. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's good you get forced to be exposed to stuff, but
I think
obviously that didn't inspire your
I didn't know
guitar.
what my taste was. And that
Yeah.
was the issue. Like, because he was asking me what I wanted to learn, and I was like, I don't really know, because I don't really want to learn this. I don't really want to hear what's on the radio right now. So I'm like, yeah, now looking, I mean, I don't know. I say I appreciate it, but like, I've never put on Blink 182. But I think you can hear some of those influences in my music. There were
Yeah.
some bands I liked at that time, or like the Killers, but that was a little bit later than when I was taking guitar. So anyway, that didn't stick then, and then I picked up the guitar later on. And it's actually interesting because I was just watching a video before we came back on here about Bob Dylan's writing technique, and he would just learn old folk songs and then put his own lyrics on top of them, and
Yeah.
then the melodies would change a little bit, and I was like, oh, that's what I used to do.
Yeah.
So like,
Bob Dylan's a hero for doing that. Led Zeppelin's,
yeah.
cursed. They're the
Wait,
devil.
what?
Well, Led Zeppelin did that with a lot of this. So Stairway to Heaven was fully they've been fighting that for years that they didn't steal Stairway to Heaven, but the melody is fully taken from old folk songs and stuff.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
interesting. But that's kind
yeah,
of like, but that's kind of what folk is.
yeah,
That's what it is, and that's kind of what music is. I mean, there's only so many combinations you can do. I
yeah,
actually say, like, I think one of the reasons people both look down on and like look up to actors at the same time is because acting is the only art form that doesn't have a decided structure to it.
yeah,
Like there's no like definitive way of saying this is how you
yeah.
do that.
Yeah, it's
Whereas
funny you
like
talking about this. Let me just interrupt this really quick because
yeah,
leading
yeah.
up to this, like I thought, like the only reference besides like hearing the music, but to you was your acting, right? And I had actually thought it made me think like when you're doing your music, right? That's completely everything you have there is completely in you. In the process of acting, though, you've got the people that write they have the writers and the producers and the directors. Like, where does that leave you room for like you would have to have part of what you want in that character, right? But it'd be
Mhm.
limited, right? Talk to me and talk to people maybe who've never had exposure to someone like you that's done like the level that you've
Yeah.
done. Like, what is that like the creation process of the artistic part? Like,
Well, they have auditions, right? So it's
yeah,
like if you go into an audition and you're like, this is my interpretation of it,
yeah,
and they either like it or they don't. You know what I
okay.
mean? And it's
But
kind
do
of the
you
same
still
thing
get to
with
be
like,
creative with to a point when you're doing the thing, or is it like, nah?
yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends. Like, I've worked with directors before that were, it's always interesting. And I think maybe that's where I learned the aspect of like trying everything because I've worked with a director before who was like, you need to know every single word, and I want you to talk like this. He
Mm,
wanted the pace to be really, really fast. It was supposed to be like the whole time, right? But then I worked with other directors that are like, say whatever the fuck you want. So it's like,
yeah,
and
it's awesome.
I've seen other actors that couldn't adapt to that, and
Mm,
some of them were like big names, but
yeah,
they were like, oh, I have my way of doing things, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not gonna be like that. Like I have to be like moldable and be like Jello, and like, and the another thing that I usually do when I'm playing like the lead of something, especially if like the director is like the writer as well, is I emulate them because
okay,
then they usually like what you're doing because you're
yeah.
like,
Because
you know,
people
I'm
write
usually
everything for themselves, right? To a point.
yeah. Well, sometimes I've worked with directors who didn't write what they did or didn't write, you know, the script that we were doing, and it I don't usually do. I can't think of a time where I did that then. But if they wrote the script, then the character was usually like a version of them, and so I would emulate them to a degree, and they tend to like that, and I
Yeah.
enjoy it too because like I usually get along with the director, and like we have a lot of laughs on set and have fun,
Yeah.
and so it's easy. It's like being with one of your buddies and like you start making jokes and you have inside jokes and stuff like that. Like when I was doing Assassination of a High School President, when I came into that, I really wanted to play the part like an old noir detective. So I actually wanted to be like really quick and like snappy dialogue kind of thing, like sort of
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
like old style. And he was like, whoa, 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 back it up. And then we developed this really weird language where he would come up to me and be like, more robot, less orange. And I would know exactly what he was talking about. And I would like say stuff like that back. It started as a joke
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
just be like, okay, go more this direction or more that direction. And then we were always trying to one up each other on like how bizarre we could make the different directions go.
And then still have it make sense to you.
Oh, we always understood each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were, and then later, like at the end of the day, we were like, I can't believe, like when you said, I was like, I was like, I know, you got it, you did it. Like I was like, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, filmmaking is fun in that sense where it's like collaborative, right?
Yeah.
I didn't find music fun in that way. It's really
Yeah.
difficult. Like I think it's so crazy, especially today. But I mean, think about back in the day, like the dream of becoming a professional musician was insane. Like you got to
Mm.
find four other guys or girls that are as talented as you are, don't have massive egos. You have to get along. You have to get together and practice every day. Then you got to go play shows together, and you got to hope
Mm.
that at one of those shows, there's somebody in the audience that's like,
That goes. Dude, I'm about to interview another guy that was only a few years ago in some band that some promoter guy goes, "This is the most beautiful connection I've seen ever. I'm gonna basically promote you. I'm gonna get you record deals." 2 weeks
yeah,
later, they all broke up because they couldn't get along, you know?
uh, yeah. And it's like, that's tragic. That's so
Yeah.
tragic.
You know,
Yeah.
it's funny too because what you're saying there about how like you're on set and you're connecting to other people and my and like I said earlier to a lot of what I'm doing here is a journey for me and a learning thing and having these conversations and I go through a lot of messages every day like I intentionally
Mm,
ask for people to talk about themselves because I want that connection and I was
mm,
starting to suspect that one of the benefits is that people that are massively introverted and can't be around other people, those are the kind of people that do AI music, is the people that can't be in a
yeah.
room with other people. And I think AI music makes that available to those people, but I'm starting to
Yeah.
suspect from this conversation that that's not exclusive to that, that like there's other people like I'm starting to think
Well,
like you know, I like to talk to people too. Like I'm not like you know.
yeah, I mean, I honestly don't think that I'm like a super extroverted person, to be honest. I'm like fine in social situations most of the time. Um, but like, I don't know. I've been working on set since I was a kid around
Yeah, and
adults,
you've been
right?
around some
So,
pretty big name people that I think a lot of people would be intimidated just to be in the room with.
yeah, but the
So
thing is, you learn really quick that they're just people, and like some
yeah,
of them are assholes and some of them are cool. And like, you know, what's interesting is that like people will ask me, like people always want to know who was the problem.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
What do you
and
mean?
I
What do you
so
mean
oh,
like
like they'll be
on
like,
set or
oh,
something?
who is a dick? Who is a
Okay.
dickhead on
Yeah, yeah,
set,
okay.
right? And the thing is that the majority of people aren't,
Mm,
but you don't hear that. Like you don't hear like, oh, this person was great and that person was great and this person was great. You hear the bad stuff. That's the
yeah,
stuff that people kind of like want to hear about. I would say the majority of people that I've worked with have been great.
yeah.
And like even sometimes like when I didn't get along with someone, looking back on it, maybe I was like, oh, maybe I was being a little
Yeah,
off, or
yeah,
or like when I worked with Val Kilmer, he was like a wild animal. Like he was
yeah.
crazy. And then I watched that documentary that came out a few years ago about him, and he was talking about how he's talking to the camera. And he's like, he was fucking with Tom Cruise on Top Gun. Like he was acting like he didn't like him,
Yeah.
and it was apparently pissing Tom Cruise off, and he was enjoying that because he was doing this like it was like it's not like a method thing. It was like a subversive thing with him, and their chemistry in that movie is really great. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's probably what he was doing. He
Yeah,
was
yeah.
doing this like subversive, like, because that was his character.
Yeah.
But then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I mean, I guess we got the perfect
You,
guy for the job, but
but you know, you put a whole bunch of people in a room, and you know, there's different personalities and stuff, and there's just some stuff that you know, I play ice hockey with someone right now for no
mm,
reason. This person just gives me a bad vibe. Don't know why.
yeah,
Never
yeah,
had any
yeah,
bad experiences with them, right? Probably not a bad person, but if they don't like
yeah,
me, they probably are a bad person. But you know, sometimes personalities, you're raised or whatever. I don't know, different life experiences. So not everybody has to have and sometimes it's not intentional. Sometimes it just
Oh,
happens,
I
you
just
know?
mean that like I liked Val. He was
Yeah, yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
but I didn't understand him. And then after I saw that documentary, I was like, oh, I think I understand now what he was doing, and it's actually like kind of brilliant. You know
Yeah,
what I
okay.
mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like time and then perspective, like kind of changed my opinion of him.
Yeah, yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
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 okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. And it's a timely conversation about Val as well because
yeah.
and it's funny because you said that because I've seen people go on like, was everybody talking about this guy? He was a dick. But, he probably wasn't.
He
It's
wasn't a
just a
dick. He wasn't
yeah.
a dick. He was just bizarre. Like,
Yeah,
so when I
yeah.
first met him, he was
I
playing
don't
my
take, by the
uncle.
way, I don't take any of that stuff that I read. I'm like, whatever. I don't
Oh
know that
yeah, yeah.
person, whatever.
No, he was just a wild animal. Like,
Yeah.
so the first day I met him, he was playing my uncle. So I came up to meet him. I was like, "Hey, Val, I was like, nice to meet you. I'm Reece." And by the way, he was like one of my favorite actors because I
Yeah.
love the Doors movie and I love the Salton Sea. I was like, I was a massive Val Kilmer fan,
Yeah.
and I grew up on his Batman movie too, right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
So, so I walked up to him to say hello, and he goes, "I had a dream last night. There was a cougar in my house. And I was terrified for my kids, you know. And the cougar, so I was trying to protect, you know. And the cougar came up to me like this and just clawed my belly. And he ran his fingernails down my stomach. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I was like
Dude,
23. I was like,
Dude,
I don't know
I've
what's going
met
on.
very few actors in my lifetime because I don't hang out. But the few that I've met, there's one or two that are like that. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they're usually the best ones. I mean, I have
yeah,
some
yeah,
friends like that, and they're like, you're just like when they're working, you're just like in awe of them, you know. And like, yeah, I have this friend Logan Huffman who's like just like phenomenal to
yeah,
watch, you know. And he's an eccentric guy,
yeah,
you know. He's just an eccentric guy, loves
yeah,
plants.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's eccentric people, or at least a little bit different, are what make things interesting, man. Like,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
just the way it is. And I think like in the creative process, it just shows too. Like if there's
Yeah.
people that just got and mind you, like this is one of the things I like to talk about with AI music too, is because everything probably is seems so distant and unattainable and difficult to the point where people haven't been creative at all, right? And all of a
Hmm.
sudden now you have these tools and you start playing around and you're like, that feels good to be able to do that. And then you start doing
Yeah.
a little bit more of it. And you're like, oh my God, this I didn't know that this was in me, or I didn't think it was possible. It's probably like the thought of a lot of people that are poor, like thinking about having like $10 million. It's like that's impossible. It never happened. It's a dream, whatever to happen.
What's
But
funny is that I'm the poorest I've ever been, I think, but I'm the happiest that I've ever been because I can finally express myself properly.
yeah.
And the first
And
album
that's sorry,
kind of
that's one of the things
doesn't.
I was kind
Yeah,
of getting at
yeah.
with that question about being
Mhm.
constrained by directors and stuff, and whether it's refreshing to be in this space. You can do whatever the frig you want.
Well, I mean, not really though, because you're constrained by song structure.
Hmm.
You're constrained by what style you want that song to be. You know, like there are still constraints on them on everything, and I think that those there's also limitations to
To
the
the AI at the moment, yeah,
technology at this
yeah,
point. And
yeah.
like when 4.5 came out, and then like I made a song and I heard it for the first time, and it was and also I think 4.5 is harder. I think it's harder to use than the previous generations, wouldn't you say?
That's coming back. I think it's clearer and it's got a little bit more emotion than 4.0, but in some ways,
I think
it's
it's
a
more
little bit more
difficult to get
difficult.
what you want. I
Mm,
think it's
mm.
more difficult to get like,
I think
or
you have to
I would
prompt
say
it a
that
lot more. You have to prompt it a
that's what
lot
I'm
more than you
saying.
would
Yeah,
for. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And but the results are better.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
you know, so I forget where I was going with this. What was the question again?
Well, it's just a question about whether AI music as a platform and music in general now, because yeah, whether it allows you to be more expressive than being like being told by a director
Right.
or whatever that or a writer, because you can do as
Well,
I'll quote myself, whatever the freak you want.
mhm.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just a different, it's just a different type of art.
I
Like,
love that.
I would
Yeah.
say that I have that same feeling when I do theater, because when you do theater, you can kind of,
Mm.
every night is new. Every night
Mm.
is a different
Yeah.
experience,
I did a
right?
little bit of that just after high school. I know what you
Yeah,
mean. Like you just want to improve on a little one thing you said that last time. You want to improve on it a little bit. Like nothing
yeah,
anybody else maybe even noticed, but you want to get that little bit better.
yeah. But the
Deliver that
freest thing
line a
you can
little
do is
different.
improv. The
Yeah.
freest thing you
Yeah.
can do is improv. So like I've done that on set too. So like I've worked on stuff where we were allowed to improvise and stuff like that. And so that's very freeing. But I think that's probably the freest thing you can do is doing improv on stage because
Yeah.
but there's still constraints because you go
Yeah.
like, give me an item, give me a location, give me a job title, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you have a scene now, right? So you can't really do anything without constraints. You can't
Yeah.
paint a painting without the border of the canvas, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of like that's what I was talking about with the structure of things. It's like you can kind of break down paintings and go like, well, it looks nice, even if it's just a splotchy painting, like an abstract, but like an art critic will analyze it and go, well, it's appeasing to the eye because of the red on this side, because your eye moves like this and it's spending more time on that and it's a pleasing color or whatever, you know what I mean? So there's like, I think like you get anything you can kind of like break down and into the sum of its parts and explain why it's good or why it's bad, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
do it all the time. Everybody's a critic, especially
Yeah.
now. And, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. So that's a good point. But I mean, I suppose if you wanted to, you could do whatever the frig you want too. Like you might have you're saying you have to you're sort of constrained to the genre or whatever, but you could, if you wanted to, just say like, I want to make this freaky ass shit and I just want to do it. And you could. And there probably 100
yeah.
people out there might enjoy that freaky ass shit, you know?
Actually, some of the best songs that I've done, in my mind, the ones that I keep like kind of coming back to lately, I kind of threw out like what I knew. Like
Mm.
I just wrote a song recently that's on my new album
Name
called
it.
I made this song for a bitch I met on the and that's the name of it.
It
Because I
sounds
was like,
I thought
that's
you were
what it's
trying to think of
called.
some lyrics.
No, that's what it's called because that was were the first lyrics and they didn't have a title for it. And there was this girl on a dating app and she had all these instructions on like how she wanted you to approach her, all this stuff. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And then she's like, the sexiest thing you can do is like make me beats. And I was like,
Make me
done.
beats.
So I wrote this song.
Imagine you bring
She's
her
like,
some
nobody.
beats.
And she's like, I was no, I messaged her. I was like, what kind of music do you like? And then she gave me a playlist. I was like, all right, so like, dark fairy, lo-fi, dream pop, club step. And she's like, yeah, exactly. And she gave me a couple others. She was like literally giving me the prompts, and I was like, okay, cool. And then I had to leave. I was like
So let's
literally.
just say if it's totally freaked up and wrong, that's her fault.
That's what I'm saying. Because I said it to her, and she was like, "No man calls me a bitch," and I was like, "I used that word because I was making a song in the style of the music that you like." Like I listened to her playlist and
Yeah,
was like, "Okay, okay, yeah, okay, I know what to do."
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then and then I was like, and she's like, "You need to change that word," and I was like, "I don't change my lyrics for anybody." I was like,
That's
"Did you like it? Did you
right.
like it?"
Yeah,
And then she was just like, no one calls me a bitch. So any song that says bitch in it isn't about me. I was like, that's fair. You can tell your friends it's not about you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Nice. So how did that work out?
Oh, that was it.
Is that it? Nah. She got a
Well,
free song.
she confirmed everything I said in the song too. Because I like at the end of the song I said she probably smokes too much weed anyway. Too
Yeah.
much. I like weed, but too much is too much. And
Yeah.
she's like, I just took an edible. And she was like commenting on everything that I like assumed about her.
Yeah. Yeah. So she ended up being a
Uh,
cliche
I
of that
said a
music.
line. Well, I just like I think I just got the vibe of what she was. Like I said,
Yeah.
I don't spend money on bitches. I just buy more investments. And she's like, it said that you don't spend money on bitches. That's like my whole thing. And I was like, wait, so you're calling now you're a bitch if I spend money on you? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you dodged a
Yeah.
bullet with that one there, Reese.
Oh yeah. No, I know.
Plenty more songs out there.
The songs are usually better than the girl
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
in the
yeah.
end.
It's a lot easier just to actually put those songs in your rubbish bin
Yeah.
too when you're done with
But the
them
thing
too.
is that no, I'm releasing that one. That
Oh,
one's on the
it's
album.
such. Oh,
Yeah,
there you
because
go. Yes,
it was
yes.
good,
Okay.
and I played it for people. And like, I kind of love this. I'm like, I know, me too. Um, and yeah, but the thing is that like I had a friend recently who was like, "Why are you on dating apps?" And I'm like, "Because like I need to experience what the world has to offer right now. That's like my
Mm,
job as an artist is to like experience life." And like I've actually like grown to really like online dating because I prefer to get to know someone before I meet up. You know,
yeah,
actually the relationships that I had where I met them in person ended up being some of the worst relationships that I've ever had. And
yeah,
like being able to like first of all, I can tell now straight away from like the way they write their profile what kind of person they are.
yeah.
I always look in their eyes and I'm like, are they happy? Do they seem
Mm,
kind? Those are like deal breakers for me, right? If they don't seem happy, I'm like, I can't. You know, she could be the
yeah,
most beautiful woman in the world, but if she doesn't seem happy, I'm like, no, that's danger, right? You can't waste your energy on that, and it's a lot easier to filter that stuff out. And
yeah,
the thing is, when you start doing that and you get pickier and stuff, you don't go on as many dates. But the dates that you do go on, even if they don't turn into something, they're pleasant.
yeah. Yeah, there
You
you
have
go.
something to
You
talk
might even make a
about.
friend. You might get that fourth or
I
fifth
have.
friend. Who knows?
I have.
Yeah,
I usually end up making friends out of it
yeah,
because it's like, well, we get along. We like, and like, maybe the chemistry wasn't there, but like, or there was like things about her or things about me, like things about her that I didn't like, and things about me that she didn't like, and so we just weren't interested in each other. But we
so
still have a good, pleasant time.
yeah, then, and this is a little bit off topic, but what is the
Yeah.
dating scene like in Vancouver? In case anybody's wondering, is it
Oh, in Vancouver, it's kind of interesting because like it's kind of like a hub for travelers and and
yeah.
people immigrating and stuff like
Dude,
that.
I'll tell you what,
So
like when you talk to people here in Australia about where they've been
mhm.
in Canada,
Oh
and
yeah,
obviously
Vancouver.
it's always
Yeah,
Vancouver, always, man. Like,
yeah.
and it makes
Because of
sense
the
because like
snowboarding.
snowboarding, plus geographically
Yeah.
it's just easier to get to. It's like when I first
Mhm.
moved here, anybody that was American that I met was almost nobody. Like no one was from the East Coast like me. Everybody was from
Ah,
California, right? Like
right.
now there's a lot
Yeah,
more variety, but if it's traveling to Canada, freaking Vancouver. That's
right,
furthest would be Toronto, but it's mostly Canadians that live here are mostly from Toronto.
right. I would say what I would say though, and I think this is probably true for wherever you are, that if you're not having a good time dating, it's probably because you're not enjoying it. Like
Yeah,
I don't go out on like a ton of dates, but I
yeah,
do talk to people. I do meet
yeah,
people, and like it usually doesn't go anywhere,
yeah.
you know.
And that's fine.
But if
It's
it
fine.
does, then great,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
it's
know.
fine. Like
Yeah,
you shouldn't live your life thinking if anything's gonna work, not gonna work, don't do it because you just won't do anything. Let me just ask also,
it's
I'll
better to
shift
be
gears.
positive about it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's better to be
yeah,
positive, but getting experiences is the most important thing, especially if you're, I guess, you're songwriting and stuff too. If you don't do that, you don't have some failures. My song,
oh
and
yeah,
I win
yeah,
every time. I've never had any problems in my
yeah.
life.
I
Like,
stay at
wow, this
home on the
guy's so
couch.
brilliant. I want to listen to every one of these. It'd be like, what? The Wiggles. That's who you'd be writing for.
Right,
In the
right.
Wiggles.
Well, they
Let,
got
let
some
me
good stuff.
Well, they do, if you're like 4 or 5, of course.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've
Let,
never
let-
listened to it, but I assume it's good.
well, we'll get you offline. I actually just played my daughter's 11. I just started playing like when she was little, but she was
Yeah,
listening to
yeah.
some really bad Bruno Mars the other day. I'm like, I can't do
Oh,
this.
you should show
That
her The Sandlot too. I'm in that. Well, I remember I
so
was trying to think of something for her to watch, but
well,
yeah.
we've watched The Sandlot one.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm the sequel.
Okay, so which character were you in Sandlot two?
I'm the bully. I get to say the line. I get to say you play ball like a girl.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, uh, there was one part. Okay, shifting gears again, but we'll get
Yeah,
back
yeah,
on
yeah,
track.
yeah, of course.
Sandlot 2, there was one thing I freaking absolutely hated in the Sandlot 2, right? And I'll tell you,
Yeah.
and it wasn't anything to do with the acting. It was a baseball rule. And
Oh.
it was something like she said I can hit more fair balls than you in 3 pitches or something like that. No, he said I could strike you out in 3 pitches, right?
Uh-huh.
And 2 pitches came, and then it was a foul ball and a foul ball and a foul ball, and the whole thing was like, well, they're not strikes because they're foul, but they're pitches
Uh,
though. They're pitches.
uh-huh.
They were pitches. They didn't count as strikes, but they were pitches. Anyway, we'll go when we do Sunlight 2
Wait, I feel
revisited.
like I'm missing your point.
So there was a bet when the dude was up against the girl. There was a girl and a guy, right?
Oh,
Because
oh,
it
I
was
see, because
yeah,
she said pitches.
yeah. She said pitches, like
Yeah,
one or the
yeah,
other.
yeah,
I can't
yeah.
remember. One of them said, "I can strike you
I
out in
get it.
3 pitches," and it was like
Right.
it got to the fourth pitch, which was like a foul, or the third
Yes,
pitch
I
was a
see what you're
foul. So
saying.
you didn't strike out, but it
Yeah,
was
he didn't strike out.
didn't
But I
strike
no,
out,
but
but
I guess no, but then it keeps going and going and going, right?
it does in a regular game. But it's still a pitch. It's still fifth
No, but I
pitch,
think that
sixth
was the thing.
pitch.
I think what it was is that they just get caught up in trying to best each other. And like
Yeah.
neither one of them are winning. I think
One of
that was
them
kind of the
won.
idea
One of
behind.
them won, Reece.
I don't
One of
remember. It's
them
been a
won.
while. It's been a while. I was 14.
So
Yeah.
let me I'll get this I'll pull this back a little bit on too, just because of the creative process, right? Because people are going to decide how deep they want to go with creating art and AI music and all that stuff. And there's not really, I guess, a scene yet. Like it's not, well, there kind of is. I guess in Vegas, like, and this might be good for you to know as well. In
Mm.
Vegas, there's a thing that's going to happen at the end of this month, which is like the AI filmmakers awards something. It's happening in
Oh, yeah, I've
Vegas like
heard
at the
of
end of the
that. I've
month.
heard of
Yeah, so
that.
it
Yeah.
might be interested in you, but like I read this book called "Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Wants to Be," right? So
Yeah, yeah.
you grew up, and the whole idea is like if you want to be on Broadway, you want to do like grand scale
Right. You got
things,
to be there.
you got to move your ass to
Yeah.
Broadway because that's where you're going to get seen. That's where the best like people are that you get to relate with, and you can pick up those tips. So you moved to California, correct? Like to be part
Yeah,
of
for
that.
a
Yeah,
while. Yeah.
yeah.
And then I would go back and forth. But like, yeah, and I liked LA. I'm not like I don't have anything against LA.
But you
But
went there as part of what your passion was and what you wanted to do.
yeah, but I didn't have to really. Like I was booking stuff from here. In fact, one of the
Yeah,
reasons I moved back was because I kept booking stuff when I came back to Vancouver and I put it on tape. And then I was like,
yeah.
why am I here? Um and so I came back and then yeah, I don't know, it's like I agree with that to a degree, but I also think that like if you want to be on Broadway, like
Or anything. I
do
guess the thing is the
theater.
scene.
But if you want to be a theater, like I think the problem is that like people say I want to be on Broadway, but what you want is you want to be a musical
Theater actor.
theater
Yeah,
actor,
yeah.
and you
Broadway
can
was
do
like
that.
a example,
You
but
can do
yeah,
that pretty much anyway. No, but my what I was gonna get at is like do that where you are first. I
yeah,
think it's the best thing to do. Like if I were to go to LA right now and be like, I'm doing AI music, everybody would be
yeah.
like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, yeah, but
But
I was more tying it into you want to be around other people and be around and be thought of in that space in some way, right? So
yeah,
it
I don't know how helpful that is, to be honest. I
no,
used to think it was, but the thing is that like your actor friends are your competition, If
Okay.
you're in music, your music friends are your. I don't necessarily look at it that way, but other people do.
Yeah.
You know, and like an actor isn't going to get you a job. I mean,
Yeah.
I've actually gotten jobs from my friends before because I'm like, oh, you should hire this person for this part.
Yeah.
Um, but actually, I did that for Jonah Hill in like
Really.
in Rock. I didn't know him yet, but in Rocket Science, we were doing reshoots, and there was a new character that was added, and I was like, oh, you know who you should get is the kid from 4 Year Old
Super
Virgin
bad or
with
something.
the
Oh
with the
yeah.
no, it
Yeah.
was 4 Year Old Virgin. It was like his first role
Yeah.
where he was like the kid with the go-go boots. You should get that kid from that. And the director was so funny. He was like, "Oh, we actually already got somebody, but he's really good." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure whoever you got was great." And then it was him.
Was
He
it
knew
nice?
that. He was just messing with
You should
me.
be a
Yeah.
casting agent then too.
No,
There's all these things
no.
you could be there, Reece. Well, it's
Yeah,
an interesting topic because like obviously like it's in my opinion, like obviously you're in competition with each other. I think with the AI music space, our scene is to be around other AI people, and we do sort of share tips and tricks, and definitely on this channel, there's
yeah,
people that encourage each other and things as well. I don't think if you don't have exposure to a scene, whether you're living in Vancouver or LA, I think you still need to, other than just reading books about it and seeing it on YouTube,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
being around it in some sort of way is beneficial. And if you don't agree with it,
yeah.
that's perfect.
No,
Because if that's not your experience, that's fine to say that too.
I think just the times have changed, and I'm thinking of it in an old school way. But yeah, being like communicating with each other, and then being on the Reddit community, and then I was on the Reddit community, and somebody invited me to a Discord, and now it's like, so I am connecting with people, and we are sharing our stuff, and like I'm noticing like, oh, my views are going up, and my likes are going up, and I'm
Mm,
finding musicians that I like, and I'm adding them and following them and liking their songs. You know what I mean? So that is definitely true, right?
yeah.
Um, I just think that like I think sometimes people want to go put their butt where their heart is too soon. I'm just
Yeah.
saying like
That
make
might
sure
that might
you
be true
build
too. Yeah.
like so for example like I don't know if I would be releasing my music if I just started making music. Like I'm confident in my music because I've been doing it for a long time and AI is just a new tool that allows me to get it to where it is. I'm not saying that other people shouldn't do that. I might have, I don't know. But I didn't call myself a writer until I actually wrote something that was then made because
Mm,
I was like if I tell people I'm a writer but I'm just learning then it's like it's a hobby right now. But
yeah.
if I have something that's completed and then I say I'm a writer and they're like, oh, what have you written? I can be like, oh, look at this short film,
Yeah, yeah. I
and I
guess like, but
produced
people
it
wouldn't call
too. You
themselves a
know?
writer unless, if like, unless in the context of like a book or something like, unless they've been published, right? Like you wouldn't call people
Yeah,
wouldn't call themselves a writer if they're just writing. Like otherwise, we're all writers, right? But
yeah,
that being said, that if you find if you feel that you are a writer because you're writing and not getting published, that's perfectly fine too. It's not you're not.
yeah. This isn't
This is
advice
this
for
is
anyone. This is
yeah,
just
yeah.
me personally. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. That's how you
yeah,
feel about it, and that's
yeah.
fine. And I would tend to feel the same way if I wasn't publishing, if I wasn't getting stuff. But that's the thing, is another book that I read by the same author kind of
Hmm.
said, you don't need people's permission to be that anymore. You can publish stuff however
Yeah,
you want, whenever you want. You don't
yeah.
need a movie producer to make a movie. You can go into AI tools. This is actually before AI
Yes.
tools, but you could
Right,
grab a
right, right.
camera with your
Yeah.
friend and make a freaking movie, put it on YouTube, and now you're a movie. You're a filmmaker. And if your stuff is awesome, the market's going to tell you that it's awesome and they're going to want more of it. If your stuff is, as I've referred to before, a bag of dicks and people don't like it, then they're not going to watch it, And
Not
that's the
even
thing.
necessarily. That's not even true. Like you can also make something that's a bag of dicks and still have a career. Look at all
Yeah.
the garbage movies out there.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing is so many people like hold themselves back because they're afraid to just go out there and do it. And it's like, who cares? Like, just go have fun and like do what you want to do. And like, there's it. Like, do you know who Bo Burnham is?
I do know who Bo, but yes, yes, he's the
He's like a
sad guy. He's,
comedian, but
he's
he
the
does
guy that
music
the sad comedian that does things about depression, but very clever.
and he plays music too. He's a
Yeah, yeah,
musician as well.
yeah,
Yeah. He was like, I think it was him. Now I'm questioning it, but I think he was saying that I'm just confident there's enough me's out there that are gonna get this.
yeah. That
Yeah,
that is that is probably some of the best advice that you could
yeah,
get from someone that has experience, because when I put out this YouTube channel, that's exact. I was confident that if
right.
I just act like myself and I do myself, there's a few billion people in the world, so they're going to connect with me. So there's going to be some people that connect with me, and that's going to make me happy. And that was enough for
Yeah,
me. And
yeah,
I'm just staying with it. The people are going to like me that haven't seen the channel yet, and the channel's going to grow. And I'm going
yeah.
to put out some music. I've got on Praise Be Vinyl, which is where I release my music. I think I've got like almost 300 subscribers yet. Some people
What's that
like
called?
it.
Praise be vinyl.
Praise Be Vinyl. Yeah, it's kind of like the thing is I kind of started off as like I had a I was really pissed off at like some I guess not religious, like people that were doing religion but hypocritical stuff, and I want to make
Oh yeah,
music
yeah,
about that, right? Like people that
yeah,
are
yeah,
people that are talking about how being naked and touching yourself is bad, but are probably wanking every single night, right? And then putting you in hell for doing it. But then it
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
evolved. But then I liked the tongue in cheek part of it. I'm gonna hang up on that
yeah.
call. So it sort
Um,
of evolved from that.
yeah. I was gonna say earlier that when I did my first album and I released it, I got super depressed.
Hmm.
I got so depressed. But like I've gotten really good with that because I
But
just
why?
know
Why?
that
Why'd you get super
it was
depressed?
just so like overwhelming to finally get all these songs out
Hmm. Hmm.
that I've been like sitting on for so long.
Yeah.
And so like but I knew like the thing is like I'm in touch with my emotions. So I was just like, oh man, I'm so depressed. And I knew that like it would go away. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I wept. It was like it was very, very like cathartic, right?
Yeah.
And then the second album was like easier. And this third album, it was like, yeah, I don't give a fuck anymore,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And this third album is like more about me. Like I feel like the first two are all like a lot of them are older songs that I wrote when I was younger and then like
Hmm.
refurbished. And there are a lot about like other people and stuff like that. But this album, I ran out of songs. So these are all new songs,
Yeah.
except for the one next door. I had like the opening line, the chorus. Oh, and then nobody. I had like the opening line and the chorus, yeah, the opening verse or whatever, and then the chorus.
Yeah.
And that was all I had. Those are the only two that are kind of based off something that I had before. But and because I called it Scorpitarius, I made it like really personal and like I divided the album into two halves. So the first half is like the old me, and then my song Metamorphosis happens in the middle, which is
Yeah.
kind of like a metaphor for that feeling of you know of transformation, which is depressing. And like
Hmm.
I think a lot of times people get depressed and then they like beat themselves up about it, and it's okay. Like you you have to, and the reason why I made that what the song was about was because when a caterpillar forms its chrysalis, it completely dissolves inside the chrysalis and then reforms as like an entirely new creature, like totally different.
Yeah.
And then it comes out and lives a different life, like
Yeah.
a completely different life. And so I think sometimes people are going through a hard time. It's like, no, you got to dissolve. Like just let yourself melt for a
Yeah.
little bit
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then rebuild yourself again.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people tend to rebuild themselves back the same way that they were before. And
Yeah.
I think that's why I
I think
like
people also get stuck in a comfort zone too, and are afraid to sort of push beyond that. I think people get really locked into what they're doing and probably don't know how to push themselves and sort of
Yeah.
reform themselves too. I think
Right.
most
Well,
people are probably
they
like
try and
that.
stop the sadness from happening, and it's like just let it happen.
Yeah,
Let your
yeah,
anger happen too, and just know
yeah,
that it's going to end.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think for people that aren't able to allow themselves to be emotional or touch their souls or whatever you want to call it, I think there's I think there's a mask that a lot of people put on, and it's because people don't want to be seen that way, or they don't want to be seen as weak, or they want to be
Mm.
seen as having everything together and never having any failures at all. Um, Especially like when I was growing in the U.S., it was way worse than it here in Australia.
Oh yeah, I
Like
bet.
you had to you had to be the best at everything, and if you weren't the best at everything, you had to at least big talk yourself like you were. I think it's harder to be
Right.
vulnerable where I was growing up than it is here, you know.
Right.
So it's easier to to get in touch. So I think it'd be more of a challenge, I think, to be in this space in North America than it is here.
Yeah. I
At least
mean,
where I
maybe.
was anyway. I mean, you're in North America, you're doing just fine. But like where I
Oh,
was, it was a lot tougher.
I had to leave a bar one time because this band that I know were so mad at me, and I was like, I told my friend, I was like, I'm gonna go. He's like, what? Really? Why? And I'm like, I don't want to ruin their night anymore. He's like, what are you gonna do? I was like, I'm gonna go write a song.
Nice.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. Hey man,
Because
what
they
I
were
might
saying I
do.
wasn't a real musician. I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna go make a song about it then.
Actually, I was gonna cut that up. Let me just. That's hard, man, because I do that too. Like I'm like in a group, and I know some people that play instruments or they're in bands and stuff. And this is how I
Mm.
tell like, oh, like I don't want to say like, oh, I'm in music too. I kind of like so what they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I run a YouTube channel. What is it about? Uh, oh, it's just about AI music. What? I do AI music. Like
Oh man, that's hilarious.
I could put myself out here like this, like for the world to see, but I can't have
Yeah.
one conversation, with someone that
Yeah.
plays guitar in a band, because
Well,
I'm
that's
just
why I'm
afraid of what
like,
it's going to be like.
yeah, but that's why I'm like, I just go, this is the most punk rock thing that's fucking happening right now.
Hmm.
So shut up. Or,
Yeah, yeah,
you're telling me to stop?
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
stop. You
yeah,
stop playing in your garage.
yeah, yeah. You stop being so
Yeah.
one-dimensional with your one genre.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Why don't
Look,
you play jazz every once in a while?
yeah, it's funny. I had a jazz conversation last night. I won't even go into what I'll do. I'll say,
Yeah.
dude, I'll cut this off just because, like,
Yeah.
like I literally could go for hours, but then no one's gonna watch. So, but I will continue to talk to you offline. What I might
Sure.
want to get you to do is just let me know. Just say the things you're promoting right now with your AI music or anything else you want to do. Any of the movies that you want people to watch that you've done in the past to get your royalties or however you want to do it, just because you want people to know who you are. Just go ahead and plug the shit out of yourself right now.
Sure. Yeah, so I have two albums out, two singles, Dime a Dozen, Synesthesia are the albums. And
And
then,
I'll link below too. So
sure, yeah, Baby Powder and Hate Everybody is out, two singles. Oh, yeah, I wrote those for this artist in the Philippines, and then they didn't end up using them, so I released them myself.
mm,
Um, so that's the thing is, it's like people are like, oh, you're not. It's like you can actually like get it if you really like try, you can do this for a living.
mm,
That's what I'm learning from this. It's like
yeah,
you can find people who will, work with you.
yeah,
And and I was surprised when they found out that I was doing AI. They actually thought it was cool.
yeah.
They were like, "Oh, that's actually like pretty cool."
Mm,
I was like,
mm.
"Oh, okay."
I'm
You know?
finding the same things. More on that in the near future once I lock this stuff
Yeah.
in. But I'm getting this stuff. So it may not be just releasing all your stuff and then forgetting about it. There might be other ways you need to sort of come in. So you're finding that, and I'm starting to find that as
I'm
well.
finding people to like that want me to write songs for them who
Yeah,
are traditional musicians And
Mm.
that's kind of what my goal was. I was like, I want to show people that I can write music and then be a songwriter. The idea of touring isn't interesting to me. The idea of being like famous is not interesting to me. It never was. So it's like I would like to be a songwriter for other artists. I think that would be a sick job.
Dude, I'm going to be basically following along with that, with what you're doing, because I would love to see that happen for you, that'd
Yeah,
be
thanks.
cool as.
Yeah,
Definitely once this podcast is, I don't think there's anybody that I've interviewed that I haven't been regularly talking to at least once a week since then. So I definitely want to, stay current on what you're doing and how far you're
for
going. And
sure.
and if this does hit big, I definitely want to get you to jump onto another call if you
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
totally make it, because I want this to be a roadmap to other people too. Like I know like you're saying like if you're in LA, like actors are your competition and stuff like that, but I think especially now that it's important for people to collaborate because you know it's going to make it better. I had this argument a while ago about competing
Competition can help
businesses.
too, right?
What's that? The competition helps,
Yeah.
and it also like it forces people to innovate. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
If when
yeah,
people are having conversations and they're competing with each other, they innovate. So when they innovate, things get better, and when they innovate to a point, people start paying attention. So unless you're
yeah,
having the conversation and innovating, it's just going to be AI music. So you have to innovate. And the only way
yeah,
that's going to happen is, you're not going to innovate everything yourself. You got to be
yeah.
in it. So,
And okay, so so then I also have my third album coming out
oh
June
yeah, sorry.
16th.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. I'm just getting back. You asked me to do this.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry
Um,
I cut you off, is what I'm laughing at. Yeah.
okay, Scorpitaria is coming out June 16th, which is the same day that my friend's AI avatar app is dropping.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
planned it for that. And this album is like the first time that I played it for my friends, and they were like, "Yeah, this is really good."
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, cool, cool,
Perfect. Well, let me know
yeah,
how that goes. Like I said, I'll hopefully get you on another time when you're making billions in the industry. That'd be fantastic. Like I said, it'd be a good roadmap for everybody else, but I'd just
oh,
be
I don't
happy
think
for
that's
you anyway.
possible.
Well, when I
I just
say
want to be
billions, it's
comfortable."
metaphorically. Let's say trillions.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Okay, yeah. Let's
Yeah.
be really metaphorical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, success. I hope you're successful. Like I said, I hope it
Yes,
provides,
me
I
too,
hope
man.
everybody,
I think what you're doing is great here, and I think that like you're providing a service for everybody in the community that is like really incredible. So thank you for doing that.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Reece.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. We'll wrap that one up, and we'll put all your links down below so people can see your music. If you have anything between now and when it gets posted, let me know that too. But thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate that. I know we talked about a lot of subjects, but we had talked beforehand that we're just going to let it flow, and hopefully it was interesting to you. It was interesting for me, and I appreciate it very much. Thanks, Reece, and we'll
Yeah.
catch you on the next one.